Hello, shining stars. It is time to get back to our story, The Tale of Despero. If you remember the last time we were together, Despero was going down into the dungeon on his quest to save the princess. But when he got to the top of the stairs, he dropped the spool of thread. And the spool of thread was going to help him get through the maze. So he ran into Botticelli Rimorso. And Botticelli Rimorso said, "Don't worry, grab my tail and I'll lead you through the maze." And I just don't know, guys. I just don't think that's a very good idea. But let's see what happens anyway. In chapter 48, on the tail of a rat. Have you ever had hold of the tail of a rat? At best, it is an unpleasant sensation, scaly and cold, similar to holding onto a small, narrow snake. At worst, when you are dependent upon a rat for your survival, and when a part of you is certain that you're being led nowhere except to your death, it is a hideous sensation indeed, to have nothing but a rat's tail to cling to. Nonetheless, Despero held on to Botticelli Rimorso, and the rat led him deeper and deeper into the dungeon. Despero's eyes had, by this point, adjusted quite well to the darkness, though it would have been better if they had not, for the things he saw made him shiver and shake. What did he see? Well, he saw that the floor of the dungeon was littered with tufts of fur, knots of red thread, and the skeletons of mice. Everywhere there were tiny white bones glowing in the darkness, and he saw in the dungeon tunnels through which Botticelli was leading him that everything was leading to danger. Despero closed his eyes, but it didn't help. He saw, as if his eyes were still open, wide open, the bones, the tufts of hair, and the knots of thread. He saw the despair. "Ha ha! Exactly!" Botticelli laughed as he negotiated the twists and turns. "Oh yes, exactly!" If what was in front of Despero was too horrible to contemplate, what followed behind him was, perhaps, even worse. Rats! A happy, hungry, vengeful parade of rats, their noses up in the air, sniff, sniff, sniffing. Here's Botticelli Rimorso. Are you ready? It's pretty scary. Botticelli's the big ugly guy. I guess I shouldn't say rats are ugly, but I think he's ugly. And then Despero's the cute little mouse with the big ears. Do you see him? "Mouse," said one of the rats joyfully. "Oh, yes, mouse," agreed another, "but something else, too." "Soup," called out a rat. "Yes, soup," agreed the others. And "blood," sang a rat. "Blood," they all agreed together. And then they sang, "Here, mousie, 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 here, little mousie." Botticelli called out to the other rats. "Mine," he said. "This little treasure is all mine, gentlemen and ladies. Please, I beg you, do not infringe on my discovery." "Mr. Rimorso," said Despero. He turned and looked behind him and saw the rats, their red eyes and their smiling mouths. He closed his eyes again. He kept them closed. "Mr. Rimorso," he shouted. "Yes," said Botticelli. "Mr. Rimorso," said Despero, and he was crying now. He couldn't help it. "Please, the princess." "Tears!" shouted the rats. "We smell tears, mousie, we do." "Please," shouted Despero. "Little friend," said Botticelli, "little Despero Tilling, I promised you, and I will keep my promise." The rat stopped. "Look ahead of you," he said. "What do you see?" Despero opened his eyes. "Light," he said. "Exactly," said Botticelli. "Light." Well, light's a good thing, right? Why is there light? Wait a minute, they're in the dungeon. Why is there light in the dungeon? You'll have to come back next time to see. Bye, shining stars.